behaving and how we are presenting as a leader. And so sometimes by focusing on life situations and things in our personal life and things that are going on that may be stressors that we aren't handling well are going to impact how we present and how we lead and how we support and how we change organizations.
Okay. I'm just looking at something right quick.
Sure.
Okay. Had a little issue here. So
oh no.
Yeah, I had a little issue. But that's okay. I fixed it. I didn't bring the live on through my channels.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't, so if you now that we're on and I can see and they can see us,
Okay.
my apologies.
No, that's okay.
So
do you need me to repeat what I said?
Yes, let's do a start over.
Okay.
So yeah, go over with what you do.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. So what I do is I am a leadership development consultant and I am a coach. And I work with leaders and teams who are either there's someone on the team or some way that the group is performing, that they're having performance issues. They're not performing up to where they used to be, or some dynamic is happening within that team where they're just not getting the results that they want to or that they need to. And it could also be that it's just, the team's been doing okay and they need to level up because they've got some major initiative, some major project, some major thing that they're trying to accomplish. And they are really looking to level that team up. And so working on really building a much stronger base of trust is one thing. Looking at creating what I refer to as either constructive conflict or healthy debate within the team, and then really getting into then being able to actually address commitment, accountability, and results. So those are kind of the things I do with leaders and teams. And then I'm also a coach, and I coach leaders as I'm doing the leadership consulting work that I do. And I also coach women who are either on the verge of or in some level of burnout where they are experiencing sleep issues. They're tired all the time, even if they do get a good night's sleep. They are having health issues. They are having chronic pain. They are frustrated in their role. They're just not getting the level of satisfaction and joy out of life or out of their work. And so I work with them over a course of 6 months. And I also, as a part of that, I'm looking at pretty soon, I think I'm going to be launching a group program that'll include a retreat. I have a retreat planned for October, and I think we're going to try to create a group program that includes that retreat where it's called Release and Restore. So how can we release the stress and release all of the anxiety and challenges that we have without stuffing them down and ignoring them, and restore us back to a sense of homeostasis? How do we go through the ups and downs of life and really find our way back to that homeostasis?
That's awesome. That's awesome. One thing that you did mention that I want you to go into more detail about is the burnout with women.
Yeah.
I think that the women piece is very important, Dottie, because watching my mom grow up, working double shifts and just literally working her butt off to provide for her kids, and I knew that she was tired, but she didn't have much of a reprieve to, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. I think that a lot of people, not just men, but women too, but people in at large, we're going through that low key silent suffering, right?
Yes.
Because we're so focused on, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do. But
yeah, it's a culture of busy. We just have we have this badge of honor of busy, and we have this culture, whether it's I don't know if it's just Western I don't think it's as much in European culture, but I think it's being impacted there as well, or even like South American. We have this Western culture of busy, 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 busy.
Yeah.
And Dr. Gabor Mate has a book, several books, and I'm trying to remember what the name of the one is. But he talks about how a compulsive and automatic concern for the needs of others while ignoring your own is a major risk factor for chronic illness.
Mm.
Let me say it again.
Say that
I
one
was
more
going to say,
time
let
for
me say it
people on the
again.
back end.
Yeah. A compulsive and automatic concern for the needs of others while ignoring your own is a major risk factor for chronic illness.
Mm.
And that gets into like your mom, like you were talking about with your mom, so concerned, and with women, when the pandemic happened, it was really highlighted and much more visible because women often have carry a greater amount of the load in the home. It's just, it may not be in every household, and it is in many households. And so they have this stress at work, and there's certain factors at work that might play into additional stress that women have with not getting equal pay for equal work, or not being taken seriously, or feeling like they have to behave and perform and act like men and the patriarchy in the organization, and not being able to bring their own gifts and talents and femininity into the organization, and still being a strong leader, really being able to tune into their own gifts and talents, because there's just these expectations, because so much of leadership is men. I mean, you look at CEOs, women still make up such a small percentage. And so there's that stress at work, and then they come home and there's dinner and dishes and kids and homework. And when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden it was school and work and all of that additional. And I don't think that has really come down. Here's what I tend to tell people, and this is men and women alike. If this is calm, this is grounded, and this is a major stress event. For example, I was at Molson Coors when the shooting happened. Major stress event. 5 days later, my husband's workplace was threatened. Major stress event. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Those things, stressors are going to happen. It's how good are we at coming back? And this isn't coming back here is not a Sunday thing. It's not a vacation thing. Most of us are operating at a constant hum somewhere here. Maybe some people are at a constant hum here. Maybe some people are at a constant hum here. But all of that stress on an ongoing basis, your body is in a fight, flight, or freeze type of response. And when that happens, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your immune system goes down, your immune system shuts off, your digestive system slows down.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you don't complete that stress cycle and bring it back down to this calm, grounded, okay feeling, then all of those systems are just being stressed and being some of them in overdrive, some of them damped down on an ongoing basis.
I'm taking everything that you're saying in because I see that in a lot of us. We people working 2 jobs. You got kids at home that have needs, and they want you to be there, and it's like, how can I be here when I got to pay for all these bills and work all these hours? And so I get it. The level is not here. It's up here.
And we have been taught to be independent to be able to do it by ourselves. And
Ooh.
we see
Mm.
that vulnerability, that asking for help as a
Mm.
sign of weakness.
Mm. That's me. That's me. And that's a lot of men,
Yeah.
including myself, because I'm telling you, we were raised, in the streets to, hey, suck it up. You get
Suck it
hurt,
up,
suck it up.
buttercup.
Suck it up, buttercup. That's it. And
Yeah.
we carry that over to adulthood. You're a man. You're supposed to do A, B, C, D, and E, and it's like you're supposed to do this, but you're not supposed to have feelings, though.
Yeah, the unrealistic expectations are a stressor.
Yeah. So
It
so how
just
do you help people navigate through their feelings as a guide? I'm not going to say a coach, per se, but a guide, because that's what you do.
absolutely. And that's an important thing to note is a coach is not someone. I had somebody who said, well, a coach tells you what to do. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I might have some suggestions based on experience.
Right.
Mostly what I am doing is helping you tap into your own wisdom, helping you look at your brain. I always tell people, it's like I'm sitting next to you on the couch and you and I are looking at your brain, looking at your thoughts, looking at your feelings, looking at your actions, So one of the things so I take people through a couple different things. I have a number of exercises. The first step, I have a process called a door. You can call it, sometimes I call it a dose, sometimes I call it a door, but it's assess. So we do a really serious and sober assessment of all the stuff that you're doing, every single thing you're doing in your personal life, in your work life. We categorize that and we look at why are you doing each thing? We look at those categories and see, are there imbalances that you want to do something about? Because one of them might, one of them's your physical body, one of them is your mental health, one of them is your spiritual practices.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice where things might be, I only have a few things versus another area I have a bunch of things. And sometimes you want to make a shift and other times you don't. And it's not always going to be in balance. I've already done this like 2 or 3 times. Then we look at why are you doing those? Because there are often times we're doing things out of obligation, out of expectation, out of resentment, out of all of these reasons that aren't good reasons. We don't like the reasons. And so the energy that we're coming into them with is a negative and stressful energy. We're putting the stressor on ourselves by doing those things. Then, okay, go ahead.
When you said that reminded me of a conversation that I had with someone today. And I said a lot of issues that we deal with are because of us. Life isn't meant to be hard. We just make it hard.
Well, and you make a very good point. There's some of the things that we stress about are habits.
Yeah, yeah.
From when we were a child that we have, because whatever's happening outside of us, a stressor is going to happen. And it only creates stress. And stress is a really big umbrella. People experience stress in different ways. Some people will experience anxiety. Some people will experience fear. Some people will the feelings, the actual emotions. I don't believe that stress really is an emotion. I like to take people deeper than that to see what are you actually feeling. And so we look at what is that stressor and what's your thought about it? Because in order to get in touch, and sometimes people have a easier access to the thought or they have easier access to the feeling. And we tune into where is the feeling in your body? And we tune into, I give them a list. I start with a list of like 26 or so emotions. And then I have another list of like 100. But I like to give them some ideas because some people just don't have a vocabulary for our emotions. And oftentimes we attribute those emotions to the stressor. And it really, the only way that it's connected is the thought that we have. Because what stresses me, if there's an incident, let's say, I'll give you an example, the shooting that happened at Molson Coors. there was a gentleman in our area who was from the military. He'd been in the military for many years before he came to Molson Coors.
Okay.
And he did not have the same stress response as I did to the situation. And I didn't even really have the same stress response in the situation. The adrenaline was so high. We were just in like reaction mode. But then 5 days later, when my husband's workplace was threatened, I was like, somebody's going to come and kill us.
Mm.
You know, that was my thought. And I was just hyper vigilant. I never felt so vulnerable in my life. And my husband, he took the same situation and he was like, he is not coming after us. There's no way he's coming after us. And but I couldn't let that go because I was thinking differently than him.
Sure.
He had different feelings about it because his thought was different. The situation, the facts were exactly the same. Someone was fired at his place of work. And when that person left, they said, I have 2 words for you, Molson Coors, and left. And that was 5 days after the Molson Coors shooting. And it freaked me out. My mind, my body went into fight, flight, or freeze. And so I really work with folks, and this for some people can take some time in observing, what am I thinking and what am I feeling? Because what we do and what we don't do are all a result of how we feel. Same example, my husband slept through the night like a baby. I was up all night. Every noise, I mean, we live out in the middle of nowhere. And there's really not, I mean, there's all sorts of animal noises outside. And I mean, not in the middle of nowhere. We're 20 miles from downtown Milwaukee, but we're on almost 9 acres and 3 houses on like 48 acres or something like that. And every noise was freaking me out. So I was just like getting up and checking the door, double checking all the locks.
Yeah.
I don't do that at night. We leave our house open all the time.
Wow. Nice.
You know, we just, we do kind of live in the middle, and it's not really in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, we're only 20 miles outside of downtown, but
it's cool that you have that little private little plot of land where you can call it on and, it can be safe, but still you always have that thought in the back of your head, that what if factor, because you live in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and the thing is that most of the time I don't have the thought that anything's going to happen to us. But for quite a long time, and it took me a while, and I had to do a lot of work on this with a therapist, actually. And I worked with a coach and a therapist, interestingly enough, on this one, because this one went pretty deep. It wasn't just about those 2 incidences. It actually unearthed some other things that I needed to go to therapy for. But once I was able to work through a lot of that, I was able to shift what I thought about, how I thought about it, and able to then complete that stress response and bring that back down.
Okay. What got you involved in life coaching, Dotty?
So I was a project manager earlier in my career, and I got a lot of does not play well with others. Okay. In that area. And what I realized as later in like about 10 years later was that what I was doing, the project management, really wasn't aligned to my core skills and talents, my gifts and my talents. I built up skills in project management and they sapped my energy and I didn't realize it. And that's why it just took those kinds of activities, the project management, the Excel spreadsheets, they take way more energy than the average person, than somebody where that's a core, like that's their gift. They're like in the spreadsheets. They love doing that stuff all day. I don't. I do it. I can do it. I just don't love it. But the way I got into it is that I learned when I was a project manager, I learned about change management, which is really all of the people side of change and helping people to understand and helping people to understand where are people's fears, where is people's resistance, what are they thinking about all of this change so we can help them feel better about the change and change their actions. Because if they're in fear, they're not going to be able to do anything different. If they're in this fight, flight, or freeze kind of reaction, they're not going to be able to perform whatever changes need to be performed in whatever change we're talking about. Then I went to Harley and I was the manager of change management and had a couple different jobs there over the years. And then I got into organizational development and I learned many different skills and was doing some internal coaching when I was there. I loved that work. I loved it. You know, I loved being able to see the ahas as people really started to tune into really who they were at their core. Back then, I was using a lot of Myers-Briggs and some other tools to be able to get to that, you know, who am I at my core? Because we have this core self that we were born into the world with. And then we have this outer layer of our developed self, which are our habits and patterns, like I said earlier, that we may have developed as a child. And then we have our contextual self. And so many of us have this outer layer of our developed self, of these habits and patterns, that we think it's who we are. You know, it's like the water to a fish. So for me, the project management work, I did that for a long time. And I thought, oh, okay, I got skilled at it, you know, or the reactionary kind of approach to things, the aggressive approach to things. That was just a habit I built as a way of coping from when I was young. You know, so we have those habits and patterns. And if we can start to peel them away and we start to get back to who we are at our core, I just saw lights go on in people's minds about, you know, what they can do and do differently so that they could really work in their zone of genius, work aligned to their gifts and talents, and be able to, if they're a leader, delegate and bring in team members to augment those areas that are either skills that they really shouldn't be doing or areas that they just are not, that's not their zone of genius. And they need to have somebody else who that's their zone of genius to really free them up so that they can apply their genius to their role.
Right. So I know this, but I think some of the viewers probably don't, but there's different avenues in which you can coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay.
Because your target, from what you're saying to me, is a leader. You're doing it from a leadership perspective.
So a big part of what I'm doing is that leadership coaching. And then I'm also any women kind of who are in that burnout. And we'll be, you know, with the women that I coach, it's both on professional things as well as life things. Because those, you can't necessarily completely separate them. How we do one thing is usually how we do everything.
Yeah, I was just asking about the leadership piece because I know from your background, you deal with a lot of upper,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
management.
Yeah, I've worked with CEOs and senior leadership teams. I've worked with directors and senior directors and VPs. So
yeah, cool. And what were some of the challenges you had working with these leaders?
They vary. I mean, it really does vary. I think some of them are, you know, like one leader that I worked with, I did some work with his team, and he really had expectations that everybody needed to be like him. You know, he had a certain way of being that he wanted people to be like him. And it's just unrealistic, and you're creating stress in the organization. And plus, if everyone is like you, and it wasn't, you know, around everything, but there were certain behaviors that he just absolutely wouldn't tolerate. You know, he wanted everybody's desk to look what he would call race shop clean. And because if you're ever in a race shop, everything's in order, because if you're racing, you've got to be able to know exactly where every tool is in every moment so that you can do things. And for some people, that just wasn't natural for them. And when you force people into a particular way of behaving, that's creating stress. You're asking someone to be someone they're not. And that's just not healthy. It creates an unhealthy relationship between the leaders. You know, this was between a senior, you know, a director and a manager. And that manager it created stress for them. It created stress for, the assistant who I coached as well. She was able to actually do the behaviors, but she didn't realize how they were stressing her out. And some of her reactionary behaviors were because of that stress.
Okay.
So instead of just trying to, white knuckle your way through behaving differently, let's go deeper. Let's go to the core. Let's find out who you really are and look at what you're doing and how well is it aligned to who you are. And is it one of these developed patterns that was a coping mechanism from years ago that just doesn't serve you anymore? I mean, it could be a number of different things that really trigger, and we can say that there's some outside thing that triggers it. The outside thing is just a trigger for a thought we have. That I have to do this in order to be okay. I have to do this in order to survive. I have to be this way in order to gain approval, to, succeed, to whatever.
What about on a not necessarily a professional level, but what about more of a personal relationship, where you have one person that's, damn near ADD, or like everything has to have its place, versus the person that's like
OCD?
Yes. I had a long day, Dottie, so my mind is just
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So, I mean, what do you say about that the type of relationship where one is anal about places and things and locations, and the other is kind of like laissez-faire, like, if we find it, we find it. If we don't, we don't. Because that could be a recipe for disaster.
That's a much longer conversation than we have time for right now. But it's part of it is that we can ask other humans to do things. And other humans are humans. They're going to do what they're going to do. If you think that you're going to control another human's behavior against their will, you're just going to create stress and tension and piss people off. That's a whole process that we go through, and we look at manuals that we have for other people. Oftentimes we have this very thick manual of all the behaviors that we think someone else should do. And we can ask, we can say, hey, let's say you're married to someone who smokes. I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't smoke in the house. They can choose to agree to do that or not. But then you can set a boundary, which might be, if you're going to smoke in the house, I'm going to leave. And maybe not leave the relationship, but I'm going to, I'm going to go and I'm going to be somewhere else until you're not smoking.
Right. So,
and that one's pretty significant, but it could be a lot of different things. Boundaries aren't, if you smoke, I'm going to scream at you, or if you smoke, I'm going to cut your cigarettes up. No, it's something that you're going to do, not to retaliate or get back at, but that you're going to do to create the environment that, to be able to keep you in integrity.
Sure.
Like I have a friend who said, if you're going to smoke in the car, then I need you to drop me off and I'll find another way to ride. If you're going to have anything to drink, then I'm not going to drive with you. I'll take an Uber home. Those are boundaries. It's not like I'm going to berate you and shame you, and that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't. I have a question. Well, I have a statement here. I thought it was a question, but it's more like a statement here on the chat, and I'll read it. Scott, how you doing, Scott? He says this: a good leader doesn't try to make their team like them. They recognize their employees' strengths and weaknesses to coach and build them up.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Scott. You're absolutely right. A good leader is one who knows and can recognize, or works with their HR team, or works with an outside consultant to really help understand what are each person's strengths. Because sometimes people's skills, I was a project manager, my skills, people wanted me to do spreadsheets and project management, and I had to get to a point where I started to say, no, that's not, I have that skill, but you're not going to like me if you make me do a lot of that. And it takes, sometimes for some employees, it takes them a long time to get there. And great leaders, even people who are good leaders might not always know how to discern gifts and talents from those, what I call the gifts and talents from the skills. But yeah, you need to grow your people and, get people around you who do things better than you do.
True. What are the benefits of having a life coach?
The benefits are many. So the benefits to the coaching that I do, and there's different coaches, because a life coach could be someone who helps you reduce your drinking. A life coach could help you with your weight. A life coach could help you just as a general life coach and in all areas of your life. So I help people to reduce their stress. I help people to work fewer hours without impacting their productivity or without impacting and actually increasing their productivity. And without impacting their stress, not burning down anything that they've created. I help people to create a great deal more satisfaction with their life, to find the things, because so many of the women in this kind of situation have given up so much of their life. They don't, if you ask them, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? They don't even have a hobby anymore. Some of them don't even really know what they love to do. And so really trying to help you bottom line is a coach is guiding you and helping you make a change in your life that you want to make. And it could be something small, it could be something really big. I know a woman who coached someone for 18 months and covered all sorts of things. Her mother had died. She was getting married. She wanted to lose weight. She had a strained relationship with her father. She had some expectations of her fiance that were causing stress in the relationship. And she just, over the course of 18 months, they worked on a lot of different things. And she was just in such a better place. When we can reduce the stress of all those things, our health is going to be much better in the long run. I have someone very close to me, and I've talked about this before, someone very close to me who has the BRCA2 gene. It's my sister, and she was diagnosed 2.5 years ago with stage 4 breast cancer. They didn't catch it until it was in it was in 9 different places in her body.
Right.
And I have several other siblings. I have several other nieces, but siblings in particular, because they're not that far off in age, who have shown no development of cancer. My sister had a lot of stress in her life. She also dealt with a lot of shame that she stuffed down because of a situation in her marriage that she dealt with for a very long time, and then a very difficult divorce. And so all of that stress, years and years and years and years and years of stress, didn't realize what it was doing to her immune system and allowed that cancer to get so far so fast. Well, and part of it was it went undiagnosed because, don't ask me why.
Yeah.
I think I know why, and we won't talk about it here, but it's just, there's sometimes it's not caught easily on even a mammogram, because she did get mammograms every year. But anyway, so I don't think people always realize the stress, or we just we're like, yeah, it's just stress. I can't sleep. Oh yeah, I'm just stressed out.
Yeah.
And we kind of dismiss it without realizing what it's really doing. It's raising your heart rate. It's raising your blood pressure. Both of those are risk factors for chronic illness and chronic disease and death. It also decreases when you're in that stress response, when you're in that sympathetic nervous system, your body damps down and starts to shut off your digestion. It damps down and turns off your immune function. And so that's okay if it's a very short period of time and then we get back here. If it's a stressor event that, even when I was at Molson Coors, that was 5 hours that we were in that, lockdown situation that was really quite stressful. Even if being able to, within a few days or a day or whatever, being able to come back to here, you know, but if it's this constant hum of stress, those factors that we don't realize, that elevated heart rate, that elevated blood pressure, that damp down of the immune system, the damp down of your digestive. And we wonder why people, and everybody's just willing, so many, not everybody, so many people are just willing to address it with a pill, with a medicine, with, you know, and that's all that's doing is masking the symptoms. It's not addressing the root cause. And that's what I really work on with people, is getting to the root cause, because otherwise that burnout is just going to happen over and over and over and over. And changing jobs, changing spouses, changing homes, that doesn't change anything. Changing the outside circumstances doesn't change a freaking thing. No, because of it, we have to get to what's the root cause. What are we thinking about it? How are we feeling about it? Until we can get to those things, then we can start to really allow, and part of the reason is that we don't allow our emotions, we stuff them down. And there's a couple different books. Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I think that's what it's called. That's one of the books. Or The Body Keeps Score.
The Body Keeps Score. Huh.
Your body, all that stress that you're putting on yourself, your body is keeping score. And eventually it is, you know, and everybody's, you know, you'll hear people say, well, you got to die of something. Well, do you want to be miserable and weak and sick?
Right.
We have the opportunity to live long, healthy lives.
Yes.
But not when we're operating at this stress level, this constant hum of stress. And that's what I want. I personally want to, I was saying I want to live to 100. And I just spoke to someone yesterday and she's like, she's creating a movement called blue bubble living. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept of the blue bubble or blue zones. There are certain parts of the world where people live to over 100. And she and this friend of hers said, well, we're never going to move to one of those places. I want to create a blue bubble. So instead of living in a blue zone, I want to create a blue bubble. She said, my goal is to live to 126, and I want to be able to go hiking and do running and be healthy all the way up until the end.
Amen to that.
I'm like, sign me up.
Right. Put me in the game, coach.
You know, I mean, I've been doing a lot over the last couple years. And I went and had a scan at Dexafit in Madison where they do body scans and VO2 max and resting metabolic heart rate. I'm 59. My biological age is 38.
Nice.
So there's ways to reverse age. And I'm in menopause. I'm a past, well, whatever. I don't know. Menopause is like a day when, you know, you're at that 1 year past your last cycle. But, you know, everybody blames menopause for feeling like crap, being tired, being overweight, not having strength. It's a bunch of shit.
Stress, it really does do a number on you, Dotty. And I can't agree with you anymore. I mean, everything you said was beautiful. I mean, beautifully put. And I'm with you. Because a lot of us, we really don't take care of ourselves. Let's just keep it 100. I mean, we really don't take care of our bodies. We don't take care of our minds. We don't take care of our spiritual selves. I mean, we really don't take care of ourselves, period, because we're so caught up on the hustle and the bustle and the busyness, like you said earlier. We're so caught up on the busyness that we fail to take a minute at least to say, hey, what the hell am I doing? Right?
Yes.
I mean, and it really doesn't hit us until we get sick. And it's like, oh shit, you know, I gotta do something about this. You know, I gotta take care of myself. And you know, growing up, you know, old school, where we got to suck it up, buttercup type of mentality. Is like a lot of us don't really partake in going to doctors and taking care of our mental health, which is why I'm doing this, because I am in total agreement with you that we have to, at some point in our lives, take care of ourselves, not just our
Yeah.
body, but our spiritual
Yeah.
aspects and our mental aspects, because it's all we got. It's all we got. And once we lose that, Dottie, game over.
Yeah.
It's game over.
Yeah.
So we're doing what we're doing to let people know, like, hey, you need to take a little bit of time every day to take care of you. I
Well,
don't care how you
and it's
take
part of
care
it
of
is
you.
taking a little time every day. And really, truly, it is finding ways where you can focus on being throughout your entire day instead of just doing. How can I be in that balance? Maybe it's a little wave, but how can I do that throughout the day? Maybe I take 5 minutes between meetings and I just do a little breath work, or I take a walk around the block. No, I couldn't do that. I could walk up and down the street, but I don't have a block. Don't have the block where I live.
Okay.
But how do you incorporate it throughout the day so it's not just that you're go, and at the end of the day you say, okay, now I have 5 minutes or I have 30 minutes for me. How do you incorporate? My goal is to help people to ride that wave and to incorporate all of these tools and these practices throughout their day, throughout the things that they're doing, so that they are in tune with their thoughts and their feelings, and they can, because it's going to amp up your creativity, it's going to amp up your productivity, it's going to help you be more innovative, more productive in fewer hours, have more energy.
Yes. Yes. I look, I mean, this is why we're doing what we're doing, Dottie. Um, we're here to just help people, including ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Um, Understand that there's a need. There is a need for us to take care of us, because how can we be 100% for everybody else when we're not? You know,
Yeah.
and it's so unfair when people have all these expectations of you to be this, that, and the third, but it's like, wait a minute. Number one, I'm the only person that's giving and giving and giving, and it's like I'm like, it goes back to the burnt out piece. I'm burnt out. I got no more to give. So this is where you come in. How do you
Yep.
deal with burnout? How do you help people with burnout?
So it's what I had started to explain earlier. Is first is becoming very aware, getting very sober about everything you're doing, observing all of your, why are you doing those things? What are the feelings that are associated when you do those things? Observing while you're doing things, being able to observe what are my thoughts and what are my feelings, being able to get into that. And also then getting into really discovering what is at the core, what are some of those habitual patterns that are creating stress or that are stress responses. And then really looking at how do we shift? How do we start to shift how we're being, how we're doing, all the things we're doing? Maybe we need to pull something off. There's a couple things I put in the chat, a link to a freebie that I have for people that is 3 strategies to work less. This is one of the easy things that you can do to reduce stress. 3 simple strategies to get to work 5 fewer hours a week. And so we look at what are all the different strategies that you can employ. What are some different ways that you can approach what you're doing? What are different ways you can do things differently? And helping people to learn how to set boundaries, helping people to set expectations so that they can, so oftentimes we are creating unrealistic expectations of ourselves, and we don't know how to push back when someone else comes to us and has unrealistic expectations. And it might mean, you know, you might find that you can have a conversation and you can find someone else to do some of these things you've taken on. And in some situations, you need to shift employers. That's not always the case, but it may be in some cases. And then just evolve. So
yeah,
assess, discover, observe, shift, or revise, adore, or adose. And then E is just evolve that practice. How do you evolve that practice? Because every time you peel a layer of that developed self off and you get rid of some of those habits, another one comes to the surface. And we're kind of evolving into that next version of ourselves. And some of it's creating that vision of what do you want that version of yourself to be, and living from that version of yourself versus living from where you are today or living from your past. I've never done this before. I can't do this. Well, just because you've never done it doesn't mean you can't.
And all that goes into something else that I want to ask you. People, change can be scary for some people because they're so used to living a life and conducting themselves a certain manner. I had to learn how to change the way I do things after the military because it was so ingrained in me that it affected my ability to readapt to society once I got out. From a different standpoint now, there's a lot of people out here who are stuck. I'll just say they're stuck.
Yeah.
What do you tell people that are stuck to get them unstuck so they can move forward and grow? Because I mean, I'm assuming that you probably saw that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, usually, that's often why people hire a coach, is because in some area of their life, they're stuck. They're stuck with weight loss. They're stuck with over drinking. They're stuck with, you know, situation in their relationship that isn't working. They're stuck in a job they don't like. They're stuck in a work situation that's frustrating them. And it's that same process. Let's assess, what are the facts? Let's separate the facts from the drama, because our thoughts about the facts are things that everyone would agree on. You know, and maybe you say, well, that guy's a jerk. That's not a fact. What that person says, the actual behaviors, those are facts. Things that when everybody looked at it, oh, he raised his voice. He said X, Y, Z. He said these words. Those are facts. He's a jerk is a thought. And then I might feel irritated. And when I feel irritated, then I'm a jerk. You know, the result is you're going to do things and say things that you probably wouldn't normally say or do. And then you end up being a jerk. Usually, I mean, sometimes that's what happens. So we have to go through that. We have to really do that same thing. We have to assess, what are the facts? What are the thoughts around it? And start to work on making shifts. And it might not be that you go from, this guy's a jerk and I'm stuck in this, you know, in this frictional relationship with them, to, oh, I love working with this guy. You know, sometimes there's little ladder steps where we have to change our thoughts a little bit at a time to get there. Maybe it's not everybody thinks he's a jerk. His wife probably loves him.
Just doesn't like what he does.
Yeah, you know, there's ways that you can shift little by little, rather than trying to get somebody to go from here to here and you make this huge jump. How can we make small shifts? How can we change our thinking about it in small steps? And the other thing is do you want to be right, or do you want to be in relationship? You know, you can think you're right about what's going on, or you can choose to have a different thought about it. You can choose to shift how things are working. And the other part of that might be is learning how to have a difficult conversation. You know, and I talked about the leadership side of things, how do you develop trust? How do you have healthy debate? You do not have healthy debate without trust. And if you can't have healthy debate in your organization, your results will suffer every frickin' time. You will not, people will come to me and say, I want to work on accountability. I'm like, well, we have 2 other steps before that, before you can work on accountability. Tell me about about the trust in the organization. Oh, people don't trust each other at all. Well, I can't help you with accountability until we work on the trust first.
Yeah, step by step, by step.
Yeah.
Sometimes those steps can be long, but it's necessary.
Oh, absolutely. Trust takes time to build.
Indeed.
And there are some things, I actually have some activities that can really shift people's perspectives of each other pretty quickly.
Nice. I want to just give these little stats here to put things in perspective about coaching. It says life coaching is the 2nd fastest growing industry in the world, contributing to 6.7% increase every year. And another one that I discovered was that the number of life coaches went up by 33% from the years 2016 to 2020. So that tells me pretty blunt that this industry is necessary because it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, most coaches have coaches. I have a coach.
Yeah.
I have several, I have multiple coaches. I have a coach for I have 2 different coaches that I have coaching for my business. I have another coach that I use for coaching my own brain and all the stuff I'm going through, Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I had a show a few weeks ago with 2 therapists, and they both told me that they see therapists, right? Because of the burnout that they, I guess, deal with from having to deal with the people that they work for and all the drama and the trauma that they put in here. So it's like they need to talk to somebody to get this out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
coaching is a $4.5 billion industry. And there are how many billion people in the world? It's not like there's too many coaches because we can't coach everybody. So.
Man. So with that though, is getting a certification necessary?
It depends. I was told I do have a couple different certifications, and I was told because of my training that I've had in corporate, in the project management work I did, in the change management work I did, in the organizational development work I did, and all of the training that I went through for those during my career, I had many coaches tell me, you do not need a certification. You do not need a certification. I chose to get one last year. The beginning of last year, I did add, I have it's the other program that I went through isn't a certification, but it is, because they didn't want to go through, they didn't really want to call it a certification. It's a qualification to use they have a specific framework and methodology for coaching that I also use. So that's one qualification that I have, but then I have this other certification that I got. And part of the reason I got that certification was because there's a certain framework that I just really loved. And I wanted to be able to use it with integrity, and I wanted to be able to use it and understand it and apply it the way it was meant to be applied. And so I took that certification. But it depends on the person and their background. So I don't know that just anybody, because I think it depends on what people's thoughts are about what coaching really is. If they think that they're just coming on to tell people what to do, that they know better than someone else, that's just not. then go get a certification. Then definitely go get a certification, you know.
Dig it.
But first, you know, I had people, and I coached people for years before I got a certification.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I coached
Cool,
internally at Harley. I coached people when I left Harley, but I did get the certification because of the models and the frameworks that I wanted to use within that certification, and I wanted to use them with integrity.
Got it. Got it. I know nowadays, I hear a lot of people talk about getting your head into books, reading books to get a better understanding about how to deal with self and deal with things that's going on in the world. What books do you recommend people should read, and why?
I think it really depends for whatever the person is dealing with. Some of the books, I mean, I really like, there's several different books. Like I said, I haven't read yet Dr. Gabor Mate's book. I really want to. When I think it's something about when the body says no. That might be what the title is. I like Brene Brown's books. She's got some, you know, The Gifts of Imperfection, Daring to Lead. You know, she's got many, many good books. The Feelings Buried Alive Still Survive is a good wake-up call to how our feelings, you know, if we don't allow our feelings, they just stay in our body. They get stuck. That's because an emotion is energy in motion. And when we stop it, that energy is stuck in our body. And it could turn into, it's like you're putting rocks in a dam, in a river. And eventually, you know, that river is going to overflow. You know, so that could be a stroke, it could be a heart attack, it could be, I mean, all this, it could be diabetes, it could be all of these different illnesses that show up because we've been stuffing down our emotions our whole life. What are some, I'm trying to think of what some of my other favorite books are. Okay. I can send you a list later.
All right. Before we wrap up, if you guys have any questions you want to ask of Miss Dotty, please do so. We're having a great conversation here, talking about coaching and the aspects of coaching and the importance of coaching, because I believe that this is a field that is, as I said, with the numbers, with the stats, it's climbing, it's going up, and that tells me that it's something that is very much needed, because we need people to talk to. We can't necessarily depend on ourselves to get things done, because we have too much going on up here.
Yeah, we need somebody else's perspective. We need an outside perspective.
Yes.
That's why my business is called In Plain Sight, because I try to, because oftentimes you can see in somebody else what the issue is, that they can't see themselves. And the same with you. People are mirrors for us. Oftentimes the issue you see in someone else is the issue that you need to solve in yourself. Not always the case.
Say that one more time.
I said
that was a nugget.
It's called mirror. You know, the people are mirrors for you, because oftentimes we are just projecting what our issues are onto someone else. So we're not, you know, if we are pissed off about some behavior or something they're doing, it's because it's some challenge or weakness or something we see in ourselves.
Amen to that. Yeah, that's a nugget. That's a nugget. There's another comment here by Eric. He says the emotional causes the physical. The emotional causes the physical, which piggybacks off of what you were saying.
So that happens in two different ways. Our thoughts drive our emotions. We only have an emotion because of how we think about it. Like I said about my husband, he thought about that threat at his workplace differently than I did. And so we had different feelings about it. And because we had different feelings, we had different actions. So how we present physically, the actions we take or the actions we don't take are because of how we feel. And then if we don't stuff down our emotions, if we stuff down our emotions, then they will impact our physical body. Yes. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you meant, Eric, but that's how I'm interpreting those two interpretations is how I would interpret that.
That's good. That's good. You know, and I want to touch on accountability. Social media, in my opinion, has made it so it's convoluted the idea that it convoluted the thought that people shouldn't really take ownership of your emotions, because it's like you use the word projection. I see a lot of projection. It's like, well, you shouldn't have did this to me anyway. You know, it's such an indulgence of projecting anger, you know, just this disgust and the negative vibes. It's like, I don't like, you know, what I'm seeing out here. You know,
Yeah.
no one's taking accountability for what they're doing. It's
Yeah, and
always,
that's
oh, it's
part of
his
what
fault.
we coach, what I coach people on is taking 100% responsibility. Someone else can't make you feel one damn thing. What they do or don't do, it's a fact. And the only reason you feel anything about it is because of thought that you have. And so you can choose to think that way, or you can choose to think differently about it. Or you can choose to create a boundary and separate yourself from that person's actions. You know, and so many people think that having an emotion, allowing your emotion, is vomiting that emotion onto somebody else. People are not garbage cans with hairy lids for you to vomit your emotions into. Allowing an emotion is different than sharing an emotion. I can share with my husband that I was really sad today. I had a text exchange with my sister that was completely neutral. And it just set me off, and I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. I was just so sad today because I know she's going to die soon. I mean, I know we're all going to die. And when you know it could be in the next few weeks or in the next couple of months, and she's only 63 years old, you know, I started to spin, but I just allowed myself to cry. You know, I wasn't, you know, when my husband came home, I didn't get angry or frustrated with him because I was in this funky mood. You know, I could choose to let things he did or said put me in, you know. No, it's because I was in a vulnerable place and taking responsibility for being in that vulnerable place. And do I let him in, and do I share that and say, hey, I just, and being clear about what will serve you. There are times where I'm like, I don't need you to say anything. I just need you to hold me. I just need you to hold me and let me cry.
That's it. Yeah. 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 I get it. I get it. Because that's all people really need sometimes, is just to talk. You know, be that vent board. I mean, you don't have to take it in, but just let me get this out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and after that, I mean, we're good. We're good. You know, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to shout at you, but give me that space. Give me that time. Give me that time frame where I can you know,
Just think what it would
yeah,
do to your stress level and your emotions if all somebody did was put their arm around you, put your hand on your back and said, I'm here. What do you need? I'm here. I mean, you could just feel and think. I mean, it just feels like, how can you be that
yeah,
for someone?
yeah.
As well as making sure you have that from someone.
Hmm. Amen to that. Amen to that, Miss Dotty. What's next? I mean, you're doing so many things, but I gotta ask, what's next for you on the horizon, other than your group retreat that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, those are the big things is I'm working on putting together a group program. So if anybody is interested in coaching, right now I'm doing one-to-one coaching. So if anybody is interested, um, you can reach me. I'm sure he'll put in his show notes my email address, which is dotty@inplainsightinc.com. You
Mhm.
can email me or reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn. And then I have this freebie for people that, if you could share with them in the chat. For people, I do also have a free seminar I'm doing on April 23rd that is part of the Dare to Be Aware Fair. It's one of the Dare to Connect, and it's beyond burnout. And it is looking at, I'm trying to think of what the rest of the name of the event is. I know the first part of it is beyond burnout, and I
Dare
always
to
forget.
be aware.
It's part of the Dare to Be Aware Fair. And these are what's called a Dare to Connect session. They're free. And you can register here. Let me copy this. I'll put this in the chat too. This is on April 23rd. And then the Dare to Be Aware Fair, I will also be speaking at. And
Mhm.
that's on May 11th. That's a Saturday. It's all day at the Brookfield, excuse me, Brookfield Convention Center. But the one on the 23rd will be in Waukesha from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And it is Beyond Burnout, Redefining Rest and Relaxation in the Age of Constant Hustle.
Hmm. That's a lot said right there.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I will try to get this information out there
Okay. I'll put
on
that.
YouTube and Facebook. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I got your email. So if people want to reach out to you, I'll say it again. It's Dotty at inplainsightinc.com.
Yes.
Correct?
In Plain Sight
Okay.
Inc. And it's PLAINSIGHT.
Right. And it's Dotty with a Y, not an I.
Yes. Yes. Dottie with a Y.
Okay. All right. Well, Dottie, I thank you so much
This
for
has been
taking the time
delightful.
to speak with me and really share your words of wisdom. You gave us some nuggets. You gave some nuggets, and I really do appreciate that. It you had me digging a little deep within myself. It's like, you know, what I'm saying? It's like I don't sit here. I was about to strum my beard, like, okay, I hear it. I felt that one. I felt that one, you know. So yeah, yeah. That was some good stuff there, Dottie. I
Good.
really
Good. I'm
do
glad.
appreciate that. And yeah. Tell your husband I said hi.
I
And
will.
and we will see each other again pretty soon on the next event,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I don't think I'll be
Okay.
at the next event. I will be in Minneapolis on the 18th. Um,
Okay.
but the one after that I should be at.
Okay, good. Well, I look forward to seeing you again. If I have any questions or concerns, I'll definitely reach out to you.
Okay.
So I got your information. So and I will share your info, and I'll get your name out there as best as I could.
Thank you so much, Mark. This has
All right.
been delightful.
Thank you so much, Dottie. And you have yourself a good night, okay?
All right. You too, Mark.
All right. You guys take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.